Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video is going to talk about healing in Solo Shuffle, Solo RPG, just healing in PvP in the War Within. I want to talk about Holy Paladin, but I'm going to talk about also healing in general. So let's start about Holy Paladin. I made a guide a few days, weeks ago. I don't know exactly when it was, but I made a Holy Paladin guide. So if you want to check that out, you can always check that out. I do talk about a lot of stuff I'm going to talk today, but today I'm going to talk about one specific thing, which is the stats you are going for Holy Paladin, and how healing in Soul Shuffle has to be proactive. Now I don't have footage, unfortunately. I can only show you the results I had while playing Solo Shuffle. That's the only thing I can show you, kinda, if I can. How do I do rated here and Solo Shuffle? So this is like my results currently in Solo Shuffle for my Holy Paladin. Obviously, I could do and play more, but I did in total 5 here, 10, 15, I think 17 Solo Shuffles in total. And some were hit, some were hit miss. Obviously, I'm going to say that Soul Shuffle is the hardest for healers whenever you are not doing chain wins or whenever you're not having impact where you should have been impactful. And by that result, you are losing MMR, you're losing CR, and also are going to be in the elo hell of Solo Shuffle healing. But I'm going to talk about first and foremost Holy Paladin, and then a bit more broad about the healing in Soul Shuffle, and then a bit of my opinion about currently healing in the War Within. So, Holy Paladin healing, how is it going for me? It is going very well. I'm going to say that, like I said on my guide, I am going for mastery by a long shot. I think mastery is a fantastic stat. I have 43% mastery, and whenever I'm popping my wings, I have 29% crit, which is very good. Again, I think that going full crit is kinda how can I say that? It is a waste of your potential healing you can go for, especially if you're going crit haste instead of even going crit mastery. I truly believe haste is currently a stat that should not be looked at the start of the season, especially because you don't have as many points that you can allocate, stats that you can allocate on your gear. Every single point you're going to go for in crit, mastery, haste, or verse is going to be very much what is going to make you heal good or not. If you're going for haste, the truth is a lot of the stuff that you're going for with haste is not going to go be throughput. It's going to be an easier repentance. It's going to be a faster judgment, a faster city on holy shock, but not by a lot. Like if I'm in PvP, it's like it doesn't even shave off a 0.1 second of my holy shock, even with 1% haste. So it is not a 1-to-1 for sure. It's not even a 1-to-0.1. It is like not enough to make me go full haste first and foremost. But also, you are losing on a lot of mastery that you could go for, and that is straight up healing. How does it, like, how is mastery for Holy Paladin? First and foremost, it is increasing healing done by up to 36%. Right now I have 36% mastery based on the proximity of your target. Normally, if you have a beacon, and let's say he has a beacon, the farther I go, the less healing I'm going to produce. So you see 1 million, and let's say I go a bit closer. This is a 1 million crit. It's 500 normal hit, 300, 400 here, and obviously it will always depend. 1 million here. It will always depend. Now, the thing is with the talent, which is Beacon of the Lightbringer, now it will increase your healing based on the target's proximity to either you or your Beacon of Light, whichever is close. The Beacon of Light is the one that you're going to apply on your target. If he has Beacon of Light, it means that he is going to get all the healing benefits from your mastery. And the second target, which is also close, is going to also have the benefits from it, because the proximity of the Beacon of Light is very close to the target. For example, if you're playing a TSG, you put the Beacon of Light on your Frost Decay, and you put the Beacon of Faith on the Warrior, for example, they're going to have max value on the Mastery, which is the most important thing because you're stacking Mastery. Again, I explain everything on my guide, but this is pretty much about the stats. Crit, on the other hand, is something that is going to augment the efficiency of your healing whenever it's going to crit. So the more crit you have, the more chance you have on that efficiency, which is the crit healing. It is not going to augment the amount of healing you're going to do whenever you're critting. It is going to give you more chances on the amount of healing that you're going to do whenever you're critting. So it means that a 90% crit or 14% crit chance is going to give you 14% more chances on that augmented healing you're going to do. That is a chance on. It is RNG. You could also not crit even with 50% crit. Do you understand? Now, the chances are if you have 50% crit, you're going to crit normally 50% of your holy shocks, for example, 50% of your flash of light. The ideal thing is whenever you have the crits needed for your infusion of light, you get like the buff, and that is going to reduce the mana cost of your flash of light, for example, or the healing increase for your holy light. So often whenever you have that, you can do a big holy light to heal you for a lot. For example, 3,600,000 holy light crit, which is a good amount of healing, but that is not something you're going to spam every single time because it does cost mana. For example, I decided to play with Divine Favor. I do not play with Hand of Divinity. I think the Hand of Divinity is a chance on getting kicked. It is okay healing for your 2 holy lights. It heals for quite a lot. It will heal 30% more, which is cool, but it is not more healing than Divine Favor, and it is instant, which is cool, and less mana, but you have to cast Hand of Divinity, which is a GCD that is going to be lost because it is not something you're going to heal with, right? Hand of Divinity is like literally 1.4 second cast time where you're not doing anything healing related, CC related, or damage related. I prefer Divine Favor where if I'm pressing my Barrier of Faith, I directly have a buff where I can directly Flash of Light. While if you do Barrier of Faith, you get Divine Favor being able to be casted. Alright, so that's the only thing I don't want. Like, for example, the GCD I use for Barrier of Faith is always going to be a GCD I'm going to use regardless to get my Herald of the Sun, Dawn of Light. Okay, a Hand of Divinity is something you can control yourself, but it's a 1.5 minute CD, guys. A 1.5 minute CD, while this is something I'm going to have up every 30 seconds. If I'm meticulous and I do very well, I do a Barrier of Faith into a Holy Shock, for example, into a Divine Favor, Flash of Light, or Holy Light, and then I can also proceed with a Eternal Flame, where I do my maximum amount of healing I can do for that amount of time. And obviously with the Barrier of Faith, you have a lot of opportunities to get that shield going, and I like that. Some people do play Holy Prism. I personally don't like it. It does not enough to warrant the point, and yes, it activates down lights, but I do find Barrier of Faith just way more reliable healing, or at least the shield is more reliable. So there is that. Why don't I go for crit? Like I said that on the guide as well, but I found that if you're augmenting the amount of healing you're doing at all times, crit or not, it will mean that every single crit you're going to do is way more meaningful. While if you're going for full crit, generally speaking, some guides are talking crit haste, not even crit mastery, so that aside. But if you're going for full crit and a bit of mastery, you're going to crit more often, but it will be more or less impactful than, let's say, whenever I am critting. It is very important to know. For example, if I take out my ring, just my ring, it is verse mastery, right? It is 6% less mastery for me. If I take out my neck, it is 2% less mastery for me. If I take out my other ring, it is a whole lot less mastery that I could have with simply having my mastery gear. If you would crit, most likely you would have crit rings and you would have a crit neck. You would have a lot of pieces that are turning into a crit instead of mastery, which I prefer not currently. I prefer to play mastery. It is way more efficient healing wise, especially in Soul Shuffle where dampening is already very high, and that makes you more reliably spiky on normal hits. If you're critting though, since whenever you're going to do Avenging Wrath, you're going to crit more often, it will be 30% crit if you're going my gear, you will most likely have more healing whenever you're going to crit. You already have a lot of baseline crit on your talents, right? You have, for example, here you have critical healing is increased, so that's good. You have another talent where you're going to have increased chances on critting with Holy Shock, which is very, very good. You have Holy Shock healing increased with Light of the Martyr and Bestow Light. You have multiple ways to get crit, for example, Avenging Wrath Might. We have obviously the great things which are the availability to do more healing with Flash of Light on a Beacon of Light, which is also going to be additive with the mastery you're going to have. And all of these things together are going to give you way more chances on, first and foremost, critting your healing for obscene amounts, and also being able to survive and heal for way more. This build is the one I'm running every single time. Even those PvP talents are the ones I'm playing. I'm playing with Denounce. I don't care about any other things except whenever I'm playing like versus unholy DK SP. I would be playing with Cleanse the Weak, for example. Or if I'm playing versus a Boomy, I play with Judgments of the Pure. And with the same luck, with a Judgment on the Boomy, I could like dispel the roots on myself, which is not ideal, but it's still something. Sometimes I play Divine Vision depending on who I'm facing and depending if Denounce is very like risky, for example, versus double cast. I don't want to get interrupted. I will play with Divine Vision, for example. But those are the ones I would play. And in general, I also play with Recompense. Like, I don't care about the 15-second reduced CD on Blessing of Sacrifice. I like the extra healing I get from my Eternal Flame, or sometimes whenever I have the buff, I do throw a Judgment, and that could also mean that I'm going to do enough damage to maybe win the game. I play very aggressive with my Holy Paladin. I try to fake my Repentance. I try to do a Harsh whenever I can and then a Repentance. I try to be very close to the healer if I know there is no fear coming, because he has no fear. I'm playing next to the Priest. I want to be able to kick, right? If he is my focus, I want to be able to heal myself or my ally and then throw a kick, right? This one is kicked because I have my Rebuke on CD. Being able to do a stun on a focused target, very close. And whenever I feel like there is CC going, I'm just going to go away, right? Very easily, with freedom. That is kind of the playstyle I do with Soul Shuffles, but also in threes. I play risky, I play the pillar whenever I have to, but sometimes you can play very aggressively and those times are able to make you win the game. If you let the Ultimate Penitence go on your targets, on your allies, versus a Disc Priest, you're bound to lose that game because you're letting like priests in general cast freely. They will deal an obscene amount of damage, but they also will heal obscene amount of damage. And Holy Paladin don't have that pressure, like that damagey pressure that a Disc Priest has, for example. Obviously, it's not for versus any specs, for example. Like, I would not do that versus a resto shaman because I think it's very risky. He could like interrupt you as well, or he could do a grounding totem at the right time. You could play next to him, but like he could like lasso you into a hex, for example, and you don't really have a fate like, for example, priest. You have maybe your blessing of sacrifice, but it never breaks. But if you play aggressively and you have your mastery, you don't need to worry too much on having to crit. And that's why I'm saying like I go crit, because I feel like it is the best way for me to heal at all times. Yes, I would prefer to go haste, because haste is fantastic. You can deal way more damage with that, because you have more GCDs to spare, you can press more judgments, and you have more a quicker repentance, which is also quite good. You have faster cast times on your heals, although you're not really casting too much. I barely cast any Flash of Lights, to be fair. Like here, this is a game I played. How many times did I press Flash of Light? Well, I pressed 2 times Holy Lights, which healed for a lot. But I pressed only 4 times Flash of Light. And it heals for nothing, right? I see a lot of Paladins pressing and casting too much those casted abilities, where they could just rely on Holy Shock and Eternal Flame with the downlights and your Barrier of Faith at the right time, and Tears Deliverance, which is also always a good thing to press. Like, you have to know what you're playing. You're not playing a Holy Priest. You don't need to press your casted abilities to be able to top something, right? You're not a mistweaver as well. If you're trying to top someone with only Flash of Lights, it's never going to happen. So that's why haste is not that good. It is good offensively, but defensively, it's not going to be very it will not have enough benefits for it to be meaningful. Why am I not going crit though? Same applies. I prefer to have reliable healing with mastery, except crit is something that is very RNG, and for me it is not like it's ideal. I like it. I know that some people do prefer crit in general on Holy Paladins, but personally I always played mastery. Like even in Dragonflight I played mastery. Since they actually changed the mastery, how it worked with Beacon of the Lightbringer, I see no reason not playing mastery. I think mastery is such a fantastic stat for Holy Paladins, and if you play Holy Paladin and it happens that you're also playing Retribution Paladin, you could easily switch out to Retribution Paladin, although they need a bit more haste currently because of their playstyle. But I think it's easier to swap than full crit, for example. So in general, that's why I'm playing full mastery. That's why I kind of have some success in Soul Shuffle, but also in threes. I think it's like working for me, and I didn't follow the initial mob of people that were going full crit, because I already knew like no way in hell like people are going to say that crit is like equally as mastery, because I think mastery is point per point the best stat for Holy Paladin by a long shot, and crit is a good second stat that you can go for whenever your mastery is on point. I have also like literally like for example I have my head like literally an engineering head where I put versatility, because I want to have also enough versatility to survive damage. I have 23%. It will be only higher once I have like other pieces going, like on my neck and on my ring, because I'm going to buy the conquest ones, and it's going to be feeling way better as well for me surviving, but also the throughput, because versatility also increases the damage and the healing throughput. So personally, I really like Holy Paladin. I think it is S tier, let's not lie. I think maybe my success might be tied because of the meta. It is what it is. But even like I play versus a lot of mirror matches, like Holy Paladin versus Holy Paladin, and I do feel like I'm performing way better than the ones that are going crit. Now I understand that some people may say, oh, you're crazy, crit is so good, like it's so flashy, it's so satisfying to crit multiple times, your Holy Shocks and your Eternal Flames and whatnot. That's cool. If it's working for you, stick with what is working for you. Personally, I think mastery, verse, and then crit, and then haste as last stat is the way to go. I think you should have the least amount of haste possible to make it work for you. It will be feeling sluggish like any healer that is not going for haste. For example, resto druids are going mastery. as well, resto shaman as well. They feel sluggish as well whenever they need to cast a hex or a cyclone, or for example we as a repentance. But you have way more to offer than just like pressing a repentance. Like that is not enough to justify a haste stat for me. And the GCDs that you're going to win are not enough for the amount of healing you're losing on not going mastery. Now, for the second part of the video, I'm going to talk about how I feel about soul shuffle and healing in general. I feel like healing has been very great in the War Within. I know that some people may be very like biased, not biased, but like they remember a time that never was a thing. Healing right now feels very strong. I think the damage is very high, and still the rounds are going 3 minutes, 4 minutes. They are very long rounds. Sometimes very much of a hair pulling moments where you're losing on the brink of ACD not being back up. Like being able to do double bops, and my first bop is going to come back in 4 minutes, and sometimes I'm on the brink of soul shuffle, losing the match because I don't have my third bop. That's something that you need to understand. Like healing right now is very strong. Like if you jump in any BGs right now, healers are literally demigods. Like they don't die. They don't die. They heal your team. They CC very well, and they sometimes deal a lot of damage. For example, Disc Priest in twos, it is disgusting. But that aside, in Soul Shuffle there is high dampening. The high dampening makes that the games are kind of close, but also ending fast, especially on mistakes. And I think in an ideal world, when you do a mistake, when you are making a mistake, you should be losing a lot of CDs or losing the game. Like either you're going to come back because you used a lot of CDs and you respected the go, or you respected the setback, or you're going to lose the game. And that's the gameplay I like. That's why I'm currently liking healing. Like I don't like I understand that some people don't like healing right now because it is very stressful, but I think the gameplay of it is very cool, and I think the War Within has been the best expansion for it right now for me. Now, is the meta good? That's another discussion. I think the meta could be better. I think only having 2 meta healers, which is Holy Paladin and Disc Priest, and having a third one, which is the third wheel, literally, of the motorcycle, which is Preservation Evoker, and then you have like the 2 creeping up specs that could be better whenever they get a buff, which is the resto shaman and resto druid, and then you have like the 2 outliers, which are mistweaver and holy priest, which in current meta they don't really are the standard of healing. I think if they get buffs on the weaker side of healer specs, I think the meta would be fantastic. The issue I have is they want to nerf, or they are seeming to want to nerf the meta healer specs, which in a meta where damage is so high, you don't want that. Okay, I understand if you're playing like a non-meta healer and you're struggling with healing and you're struggling to climb, it is normal first and foremost, but also in general, I understand that like your spec is not working, and obviously it sucks to lose versus meta healers whenever you feel like you're playing way better, but most likely you're going to get healer diffed in general. Like it doesn't really matter on the spec. Sometimes you're not proactive enough, you're not CCing enough, you're not active enough to win the games, which can happen and you can learn from. And sometimes you're losing because the DPS is not pressing ice block. It is what it is. The thing that is very frustrating in Soul Shuffle is that if you're losing a few games, like literally losing, like for example 06, a few games, it becomes very hard to come back to a certain point MMR wise or CR wise. I understand like if you're stuck in 1500 range, which I understand, I feel you. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It just means that sometimes it's very hard to go out of it because you need a few main 6-0s to actually go back to where you should be. I understand that. It is very hard, and that kind of don't really tell why healing sucks. It just tells you that Soul Shuffle sometimes is just unfair. Sometimes the DPS is just like literally going 06, and you will have the stress to get 3-3 at least to not lose CR MMR, and that is understandable, and I think it can happen to anyone. The truth is that sometimes the DPS is not going 06. And that time, you should be there to capitalize on a win. You should be there to be able to snag a win, cheat a win, like literally cheese a win. Sometimes you need to go also do some like broader vision on the soul shuffle meta. For example, if you have a lobby and literally the frost mage just doesn't die. Okay, we don't have a mastery spell, we don't have a dispel. It's very hard to just like let alone survive or like ignore the altar time, because again, whenever altar time is there and there is no dispel, most likely he's going to get full life back, so you're going to waste your CDs on it. They have double block, which you cannot dispel if you don't have mass dispel. They have barriers, which again you cannot dispel whenever you have no dispels. They can also steal your bops. So if you're bopping the target and you have the misfortune that they cheese it and they take it away from you, well, that's another defensive you're going to go through. Sometimes recognizing that someone is just unkillable in the lobby and telling to your DPS, and sometimes they don't listen, but if they do listen, to say, look, I know Frost Mage is a target, I understand that it is probably the best target to go for because it is doing a lot of damage, but you can control and CC the mage and go for the other target, which most likely is not prepared for it because he thinks, oh, there is a mage in my team, I'm not the target, and he's going to most likely die. That's why you as a player, you should understand like what target you should go for. Try to also be a leader role and not being on the backseat, and try to be literally like the car is moving without you at the wheel, right? You're just a passenger. You don't want to be that as a healer. Sometimes you have to because you don't have the tools. For example, if you're a mistweaver, you don't have the damage because you're not fist weaving, for example, or you're a holy paladin, so your damage is also non-consequential. But you have CC, you have your defensives. You need to use your defensives proactively. Don't wait on the ideal moment to bop. Sometimes bopping a caster or DPS to be able to do their full rotation makes you win a game. Being able to Blessing of Protection a Frost Mage that has Icy Veins up can make you win the game. Going for your warrior is like Fury Warrior is bursting and you know there is a disarm on the way, just bop the Fury Warrior and he might just win you the game because of the damage he can produce. Try to find the DPS that is the strongest in your team and try to make it even stronger. Try to add more damage. Try to be there like a support where you can push them into your victory. That is my like words of wisdom, I would say, for the soul shuffle people that playing a healer and they are frustrated. I understand you. I feel you. Yes, there is a elo hell for healers in the MMR ranges. But yes, you can also be proactively better. There is no way in hell that every single game it is something you're like a victim to, like you don't have anything in your hands. That is not possible. Some games you are the one that is shitting the bed. Some games you are the one that is not making you able to win the 4-2s, the 5-1s and the 6-0s that you kind of need to get out of that MMR range. Sometimes you're going 0-6 and you do precisely know why you're going 0-6 because you are tilted or you're not playing well. Take a break, play something else, and go back to your Holy Paladin, Disc Priest, Resto Shaman, Resto Druid, Holy Priest, or Mistweaver. Did I forget about Preservation Evoker? I forget always about the Drakes. Always to try to understand, like, look, the only thing that you can control is only yourself, right? Your play, your character, and your knowledge. The thing you cannot control, but you can influence, are your allies. For example, defensives, telling who they should go for, trying to indicate when to go for with just simple pings. And if they don't follow, well, it is what it is. At least you tried. But you have to try. If you're not trying and you think that they have to know what you're thinking, then it's a lost cause. You're going to let your destiny literally go their flow and go through the motions and try to coin flip your way to victory, because you kind of do whenever you're doing that. And then you have the things that you cannot control. For example, someone that is not using their ice block whenever you're CC'd. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, you have at least 50% of the things that you can do, you can influence yourself and your allies. That's it. So on that note, I'm going to stop the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully the words of a holy paladin, wisdom of the paladin, can show you the way. Although I'm very much a death knight whenever I'm like with this transmog, but it is with a purpose. Don't worry about that. But try to understand, like, look, this video is not to make you feel bad about the rating. I respect, again, all heroes that are doing and playing Soul Shuffle. Try to understand, like, you can only control the things that you are controlling, and that's it. Hopefully you do enjoy the video. Hopefully you did enjoy the discussion. I talked about a holy paladin in the first part of the video. I'm going to put a timestamp, I think, because some people don't really care about the holy paladin thing, and hopefully you do find yourself more victorious in Soul Shuffles. Again, hopefully not against me, but that's it. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.